and welcome to TSP Weekly. This is your tech startup podcast for Thursday, November the 20th, 2014. Yes, I can actually say a date.
You're sounding much better than last week.
Yeah, my cold is finally gone. I lost a Barry White voice. That's the downside.
That's true.
Plus side is I'm not hacking up green stuff, so we're good
Saving
to go.
a lot of Kleenex.
Yeah, that's right. We are once again recording at the Velocity Garage here in Kitchener. Once again in the Strong Bad room. It's feeling like a bit of a second home to us, I think, by this point. But
it is.
Yeah, but it's nice. My name is Darren Conley. I'm a local tech entrepreneur here in Kitchener-Waterloo. And with me is my co-host, fellow tech entrepreneur, Stephen Campbell. How are you today, Stephen?
I'm doing well. I'm very cold. It dumped a whole bunch of snow on us. I don't know why I always talk about the weather at the beginning of these podcasts.
There's always something to say, I
think. I wanted to talk briefly this morning or this afternoon about the Shark Tank.
Right.
You ever watch that show?
The Shark Tank, and that's like the American version of Dragon's Den.
Correct.
Or maybe they would say Dragon's Den is the Canadian version of
the Shark
Tank.
Tank.
But yeah,
right.
Okay.
So there's a couple articles that I've been sort of perusing that have distilled some facts and some percentages after looking at, I guess, the first 5 episodes or 377 pitches.
Wow. That happened in only 5 episodes?
Yeah. So out of 377 pitches from 2009 to 2013.
5 seasons, maybe.
5 seasons. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not 5 episodes.
Not 5 episodes, 5 seasons.
All right.
49% of those were funded.
Interesting.
So that's just about just under half, obviously.
You get like 49%. A 50-50 chance.
I'm explaining what 49% is to you. That's where, yeah, great. So that was really interesting to me. The most funded ones were the trendiest pitches. The least funded at 11% were just plain weird ones.
Right.
Products or services aimed at women, 56% of them.
Okay.
Food, alcohol, and clothing, 55%.
All right.
Educational products or services, 75%. So
people like education.
A lot more, yeah.
Yep.
So it was really interesting to me that 49% of these 377 pitches over this sort of 4 years were actually funded.
It is interesting.
Wow.
I've never actually watched Shark Tank, but I've watched Dragon's Den. I would be terrified to actually go on.
Yeah. I actually know somebody that's gone on the Dragon's Den here. He's a local electrician.
Okay.
And he was pitching them a light bulb. I don't think he got funded.
No.
But I was at a Christmas party and he put the tape on.
Okay.
And I had no idea that he had been, and it was really neat to see him on and to know somebody, to see how nervous he was and how they were gentle but grilling.
Sure, sure, absolutely.
So, yeah, fun.
Well, let's introduce our guest, who, as far as I know, has not been on the Dragon's Den yet.
Actually,
really?
Well,
dun dun dun.
You
wait. Let me say your name first, and then you can tell us the story. So our guest today is John Zupancic.
Yes,
right?
Yes, you got it right.
But it's feeling much better.
Zupancic, not Zupancic.
Zupancic.
John Zupancic. He's the founder of Wriber. Am I saying that one right?
Yes, you got it.
Excellent. And we're very happy to have you on. Tell us about your Dragon's Den experience, connection. I don't know.
So they do the auditions actually here in Communitech.
Oh,
and
okay.
Just randomly they were here one morning and I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, well, let's go pitch, me and two of my co-ops. And so we auditioned. Software usually doesn't do too well on the Den because if you think about it, my grandmother watches the Den and she's not really familiar. You have to think of the demographic.
And you usually have to have something to show, right?
Yeah.
And you can't kind of show a concept of software.
Yeah, they don't want an idea. They want sales.
Yeah.
But having said that, we found out a few weeks later there were some other companies in the garage that had got the call for the show. We didn't get a call. But then just one day the producer calls me and says, John, your pitch was actually done really well. We've already filmed for Dragon's Den, but we're starting a new show, which is now called the Next Gen Den. And if you'd like to come and pitch for that, you're welcome to come in. And what it is it's for early stage companies. The max that you could ask for was $100,000.
Sure.
At the time that I went, it was a pilot, so I'm not sure if it will actually air or not.
Okay.
It's with some junior dragons, let's call them.
Right.
It's not the official dragons, but I went on the set. I walked through that tunnel. It's not a tunnel.
Yeah.
It looks like a tunnel, but it really isn't.
Okay.
And I guess the pitch didn't really go so well because it just seemed like they didn't really get tech valuations. But other than that, I mean, It was a great experience.
If it's like next gen,
Wow.
are they trying to focus on younger people pitching, or are they trying to focus on next generation, like technology focus, rather than gadgets or something like that?
I think it's both. I think
Yeah.
it's younger, and it tends to be
More tech oriented.
more tech oriented, or like a web company or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, they'd come here and see that that's what this is all about, right? It's all youth and all tech and all advancing and pushing the boundaries, and not their usual sort of education or alcohol or clothing or,
Sure.
it's pre-tech. Yeah.
It's very
That's really cool
interesting.
that you were, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
My very loose Dragon's Den connection is I'm friends with one of the producers from the first season of Dragon's Den who had a hand in finding the original dragons, like
Wow.
scouting them out and bringing them on the show and stuff. So, but they haven't been involved for many years now.
Interesting.
But it's interesting to kind of hear some of the behind the scenes experience from her when I talked to her.
Yeah, very much.
Let's talk a little bit tech news here, guys. Have a few interesting articles we wanted to kind of discuss. The first one is a new product. It's hardware. It's not software. It's called Fontus, named after the Roman god of wells and springs.
Yes.
And it is a device that you attach to your bicycle, and as you are riding your bike around, it uses, my understanding is it uses solar power to condense moisture out of the air and fill up your water bottle, so that you can extract your hydration from the air rather than having to carry around the water bottle or carry extras, I guess. Interesting idea. At first I thought it would be cool if this was kind of powered by the bike somehow, but apparently it is a solar device.
And just powered by the wind or the air that moves through it. So it's like a device. It looks like about the size of maybe a small shoebox that you'd sort of clip
something like
onto
that.
the frame at the front of your bike, and it has like a big...
There's like a condenser apparatus inside of it that the bottle attaches to.
and it's got a hood that directs airflow through it.
Right. But I think to power, my understanding is the device inside it kind of has a hot side and a cold side, and it uses that to condense the water out of the air. And so to power that, there's still an electrical component.
Yeah, I think it had a battery in one of the little things I saw, but there's several
the prototype
different
of it was
versions.
a battery. They want to make a solar attachment for it. So interesting concept. I don't do a lot of biking necessarily. According to the article, you can get about half a liter of water in an hour of cycling. Which doesn't seem like a lot.
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
really
better
interesting.
than none. But yeah,
He was doing a lot of. He was in Vienna, is that right?
Yeah, the inventor
in
of this,
Europe.
yeah.
So he didn't really have a different climate to check or to test in. So he ended up using his bathroom and I guess some sort of a humidity meter or something, and running the shower basically, and adjusting temperature and humidity. And it works best at certain levels. So I don't know if it's a product for Canada, but maybe a great product for Florida, for example.
Sure.
If which is a wet, hot heat.
Yeah, if you're in a humid climate and it's not too cold to render it impossible to use. The inventor, by the way, his name is Christoph Retezar.
Ooh, nicely done.
I'm going to pretend I said that right. And apparently won an award, James Dyson Award, in an international design competition. So a lot of talk. I don't think there's no commercial version of the product yet. But first of all, do either of you guys do much cycling yourselves?
No,
Biking?
I don't do that much cycling. No,
Okay.
But I know there's some people that cycle, like they have clubs and groups and stuff. So
It's true.
maybe it's possible for them, and this would make sense.
Is there not a cycling startup here in the garage?
No, not that I know of. No, not here.
Yeah, fair enough. That's okay.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of biking either here. Up
I
north.
used to, as a teenager, I used to ride my bike everywhere.
Were you thirsty
but,
back then?
Occasionally I got thirsty,
Yeah.
occasionally. But, I think if you're doing a lot of cycling, kind of in an urban area, it's usually not extremely difficult to find sources of water. Like you can usually go into pretty much any restaurant and
Right.
and if you're hot and thirsty,
McDonald's.
they will offer you a cup of water from the tap.
It did have a point about not really being perfect for urban bike riding, as it didn't have a HEPA filtration system in it or any charcoal filtration.
Yeah.
So although it did have a dust particle filter, if the air is not clean, then the water is not necessarily clean.
Right, but on the other hand, whatever is in the water is stuff that you're already breathing anyway.
Yeah.
So it's you're probably not getting a higher dose of toxins than you are just by being around in that environment in the first place.
Yeah,
But
unless you're in China or LA, maybe.
you never know.
Sorry, China.
I wonder if it's confined, though, just to having a bike. I mean, there are so many other situations that I could think of where this would be useful, depending if it's how big it is.
Sure.
I mean, what if you're hiking?
Yeah.
For a long time.
If all you need is kind of the wind blowing across it as you're driving, like why not have something you can attach to a vehicle?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And if you're on road trips, then you can fill up your water bottle as you're driving and whatever. I think could work, right?
Or even not a road trip. Like if you get every car to have something like this, sort of off to the side, not a big thing on the roof.
Right.
But I buy a case of water from Costco every month or every week, or I'm a consumer of water. So is that a cheap water? We're not in our first world.
Yes.
It's not a huge issue for us. But wind turbines, could you put it on the wings of wind turbines to not only get energy but get water?
Possibly.
So it's just kind of neat. I don't know a lot about it from an engineering or a chemical standpoint.
No, but you mentioned first world. Like maybe this is a product that could do a lot better somewhere else in the world, in a third world situation where water is more scarce, where they might not have a lot of means of extracting water, from the air apart from something like this.
Yeah, it was the motion that kind of got me. So if you put it on something that's already moving, but then you could get a fan to move the air for you, but then you're using electricity, and you're kind of like back to that solar thing.
Yeah.
So really interesting that he's going down this road and checking it out. It was only like $40, I think the prototype took him to make.
Sure.
So if it's that inexpensive, then
when they mass produce it, hopefully it would be even cheaper.
Yeah.
When I was over in Africa, I was only there for a few weeks. But in Zambia, there were plenty of people riding bikes, and I would assume that's a part of the world that could use more sources of water production, right?
Fairly dry there, or humid like Florida?
Well, when we were there, it was July, and so relatively dry. I mean, it wasn't a desert, but
right. I don't know if it would work in Arizona, for example, in the U.S., but Florida, very humid. So that would make more sense to me. So
sure. Yeah. Well, they can market it in Florida if nowhere else.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Let's move on, guys. And this one, I'm going to take a shot at how to pronounce it. I have no idea if I'm going to be accurate at all. Glose?
You're close. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
It's spelt like the word close with a G, so I'm going to assume it's Glose. Maybe it's supposed to be gloss, because it's a reading.
Glossy? I don't know.
Glossy, maybe glossy. Maybe gloss is a better. We'll tweet these people after the podcast and ask them how to pronounce it. They can let us know.
I need more S's if it's gloss or
Really?
Yeah, I'm starving for S's.
They probably gloss.com was already taken, and so they're going with this.
Oh yeah,
option.
that might be a consideration too.
Let's say gloss, because I feel less stupid saying gloss than glose. But what is glose? Let me tell you. I mean, what is Glose? Let me tell you. Glose is a ebook reader that has a social experience built into it. Unlike other e-readers that are out there, or ebook reader software that's out there, this one is built around making it a group experience, the reading of your material, a group experience. So you can highlight passages, you can leave comments, annotations, you can share your comments with anybody else who's reading that same text.
Right.
It's kind of like having a book club, built into the app. Where you can share your thoughts, or if you're not sure about what the author meant, there hopefully are 10 or 20 people who have already offered their opinions and can help clarify things for you, right?
Yeah.
I myself don't do a whole lot of ebook reading. I do a little bit, but I'd never ever thought of reading a book as a social experience for the most part. Typically, I like to read, alone in the bathroom or in bed before I go to sleep, and it's an individual activity. But I got to admit, I was intrigued by this idea of drawing in other people, whether they be friends or strangers, drawing them into the reading experience and seeing what people think. Because absolutely, now that we've been living in the internet age for a while, I get disappointed when I read an article and I find there's no comment section.
Right.
Especially if it's something controversial, I want to know what people think. If people agree with me or disagree, and so an interesting way to kind of add that functionality to our book reading now.
Yeah.
Do you guys read a lot of books? What do you think, John?
A fair amount of books.
Yeah?
Mostly the books I read are in the personal development space, or they're on entrepreneurship. But I mean, I know my girlfriend joined a book club temporarily, so I don't know if this would be something that they would use there to discuss or read along together.
See, I wonder even in the entrepreneurial book space, if it would be cool to have some, if people were, say entrepreneurs were sharing their experiences of putting those concepts you're reading about into practice.
Right, fail fast, fail forward kind of stuff.
Yeah, it might be interesting
Steve
to see.
didn't like, right?
Well,
so there's a great opportunity to talk about that.
Sure, or to see some of those stories about this principle, I tried it didn't work, or this worked great for me. I don't know. It would be interesting, right? What about yourself, Steve? Do you do a lot of reading?
When I started reading about this, I'm not going to mention, I can't pronounce it. It brought me to a really neat space because I learn a lot of stuff all the time. I'm constantly learning, and what I really get a kick out of is sharing neat things that I think are cool with other people.
Right.
And so as I started to read this, I immediately thought of, have you ever seen the House of Cards, Kevin Spacey's HBO series?
I know of it. I haven't actually watched an episode. I've heard it's really good.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of it.
Didn't you like mainline it for like a week or something? Just blew through every episode?
Yeah, I watched the first, I guess, 1 or 2 seasons in a couple days.
Okay.
So
it's awesome.
Yeah, their character, Frank Underwood, has these quotes that he says.
Right.
I'll give you a couple. He's talking to somebody that broke a promise to him, and he says, "The nature of promises, Linda, is that they remain immune to changing circumstances." He's quite upset about her breaking her promise to him.
Sure.
Another one he says is, "Cry havoc, said he who fought chaos with chaos, and let slip the dogs of war." So he's taken the "Cry havoc, let slip the dogs of war" quote, which I researched is from the Black Book of the Admiralty from 1385 through Shakespeare and Julius Caesar.
I thought it was
he's
just a
added his
quote
own
from
little bit.
Star Trek. Wasn't it in that Star Trek
Yeah,
movie?
it goes a little further back than Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah, fair
so
enough.
like that kind of stuff where I found stuff, and I read a book a couple years ago, The God Delusion by Christopher Hitchens.
Right.
And that, I remember writing in that book and circling stuff with exclamation points and scratching stuff out, and I had a lot of epiphanies myself, but I really wanted to share that. And my wife, after a couple times, was like, "Please stop talking to me." So she wasn't the right focus group to bounce those ideas and those conversations off of.
Sure.
And I hate getting into sort of the chat room with religious people or atheists or Catholics and Christians and Muslims, and it just gets so muddy and so.
Well, it ends up being like a shit slinging contest.
Yes, it's not a lot of fun. But if I could go from this book to that sharing venue, so it's a little more streamlined on this gentleman's ideas. I think that would be something I'd be interested in. So that the social experience of sharing the stuff, because I've read a lot of stuff that I don't really want to share. I'm a filter for that. I just spend a while, but I got nothing.
Sure.
But the Frank Underwood stuff, I just think it's great.
Sure.
And you really should see it.
And I could imagine that there would be books that I would want to read in this format, in this situation, in this context, that I wouldn't actually want to read if it was just me reading the material. Right. I would be much more tempted to read something that was completely ridiculous just so I could see people's responses to a lot of the material, than I would, just to read it to myself and whatever. I have a bunch of books. I'm the kind of person who I don't read a ton of books, but I read relatively often, and I tend to reread the stuff that I really enjoy. And so there are some books out there I've read 5, 6, 7 times because I enjoy them so much.
Wow.
But it's always been an individual lone experience. And rarely have I been able to interact with other people about some of these things. And I would really like the chance to kind of see how other people are connecting with the ideas, especially stuff that, ideas that are open to wide interpretation. It would be interesting to see how how much people's thinking on those things would line up with mine or not. And here's a forum that makes it easy to do that, right?
That's fascinating to me that you've read some books 5 to 7 times.
Really?
I don't think I've reread a book other than maybe Jacob Tutu and the Hooded Fang and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory kind of stuff.
I've never read Jacob Tutu, but I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, that's a good one. Sort of some classics from my youth with my boys as they've grown up. But I've never reread anything
No?
from my adult.
I've read the first book of the Dune series probably 5 times because I thought it was so great. I don't know if you guys have read that one at all. And I'm almost ashamed to say I'm rereading now. I think for the 3rd time some of my
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
some of my Babylon 5 extended universe novels.
That's fine. You get a lot of street cred for those rereads.
That's like uber geek to be able to read that stuff.
Yeah. You know what kind of blaster the bad guys used and all that.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yep.
But and some of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books I've read several times. If you've never read those are great.
Yep.
And anyway, there's. As long as we're talking about books, look, this app has already got us talking about our favorite books. This is crazy.
See how well it works?
There's a book out there, if you've never read it, called Things My Girlfriend and I Have Argued About. It's by a guy called Mill Millington. Of every book I've ever read in my life, this one has made me laugh out loud or like chortle to the point where things are coming out of my nose more than any other book I've ever read. It's just a fictional kind of story that this guy wrote, but he's a hilarious, hilarious writer. If you're looking for books that make you laugh,
right.
I think you'd really like it. I'll just throw it a plug.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll have to tag him now in the Twitter post for this and let him know that we're talking about his book.
Yes.
But anyway.
I'll plug you one too then. My favorite is, I think he's a Canadian, Jan Martel, and The Life of Pi.
Oh, I've read that one.
That was great. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I only read it once. But
I love the ending, how everything twisted and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
That's how it went. Okay.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
I won't tell you any more than that. But that was really cool because I think the hairs on the back of my neck stood up when I read those couple paragraphs of when he...
don't give it away. But yes, the big twist.
Yeah. It was really
John, as long as we're covering this, any books that you've read more than once or that you would recommend?
7-Minute Abs? Or?
No, not 7-Minute Abs. My favorite all-time book would probably be Ayn Rand's Fountainhead. I love that book.
Yeah,
never read that one either, but okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would... It's about objectivism and it was very inspiring, especially as an entrepreneur, just as a guy that has everything going against him and then makes it on his own. So I really enjoyed that book.
Is it a fictional book or is it like a... It's
a fictional book, but there's some ideas of self-esteem in there. It's a really interesting book to read. It's really long.
Okay.
It's really long. It's a book that's like a couple inches thick, but
sure.
I found it was great.
And Ayn Rand, she's the one who did Atlas Shrugged as well, right?
Yes, I haven't read Atlas Shrugged yet, but it's on the list.
Right. I think she's become like quite a controversial kind of figure for some of her ideas. So that would be an excellent example of a book that you could read using Glose, and I think be able to dig into a lot of insight that you wouldn't maybe pick up otherwise, right? So I think we're all agreed that this, apart from the not knowing how to say the name of this app, it seems like it's a good idea.
Yeah, if they can execute it well, I think that might be something I'd be interested in.
Sure. Yeah, I'm interested to check it out as well. Let's talk about this last article we have. Snapchat moving into a new realm, potentially extremely lucrative, sending cash using Snapchat, and they're calling it Snap Cash.
Very catchy.
Which is a snappy title.
Yep.
that was actually probably your line. Yeah, sorry, man. Steve usually makes the cheesy jokes. I don't actually use Snapchat. I understand that it's the next big thing when it comes to chat apps these days. There's WhatsApp, there's Snapchat, and one or two others kind of are the big ones in the scene. But I do not regularly send people money through electronic means. And now I'm wondering if maybe I should pick up Snapchat just for the potential of using this functionality because, well, I don't really care to send a disappearing selfie. I would like an easy means to send someone $5 or $10, to split the bill at dinner or something, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, John, do you use Snapchat at all?
I don't use Snapchat either.
Okay.
No, but I'm familiar with it. I guess we're all familiar with it. But
sure.
I don't know, that concept. It's interesting because. Can we keep the whole principle of Snapchat is things disappear after a few seconds. Yeah. And if I send money to you, does that how do you keep track of that? I don't know if they're building that in or not.
I think they would have to. It's anytime you're dealing with cash, right? There are so many levels of security and regulation that I think that the app would never be allowed on the market unless they could very robustly demonstrate that people's money is not going to disappear in 8 seconds or whatever.
And
it
I
is,
think the article talks about it's Square that's doing the cash handling. It's not Snapchat.
Yes, the actual cash part of it is handled by a third party.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming there's some sort of handshake deal behind the scenes for the profit side of however they're actually extracting their own value from this.
Or just big data. They were talking about how Square just wanted access to those names and numbers and see where they're spending the money. It was interesting how they had it set up because they had a little promotional video.
That video, I was so expecting, I just have to say, by the end of that video, I was so expecting a joke about we're not making a big song and dance about this. Because the whole video is literally a big song and dance about this thing, right?
Yeah, they go into a small skit of two siblings shopping in a store, and they find a little moose head thing to buy for their mother for $30,
and they're going to split the cost. And the one offers to spend $15 to the other one. Yeah,
sister says, "I'll send you $15," and as she does it, they break into the inside the
literally
phone,
like
kind of.
chorus girls and line dancing and the whole kind of Broadway.
It's not in the store they're in; it's in the phone, though. I guess, right?
I can't imagine that they. I don't know why they didn't throw in the making a big song and dance joke in there somewhere. Maybe it is. Maybe they are making that joke. They just were too clever. They're so clever they don't have to say it. Maybe that's.
I like the huge guy with the big beard in the back with a golden and silver abacus as he's moving big balls across and stuff.
Right.
So that was neat, and I think they had. I think they had the best use case story, as I guess is what I was going to say there, outside of this commercial, of the siblings buying something for mom and dad. Because I got to tell you, I think back to the last time I split a bill or felt like, I need to give you $10 and I can't. And at that time is never. Right. So I don't know, how does this, are they trying to compete with cash? Is that what's happening? I have a couple bucks in my wallet. $10, $20, so I always kind of have that, right?
I don't usually carry lots of cash with me. If there are any muggers listening to this podcast, I want you to know right now I don't usually have cash.
It's too cold to mug anybody, isn't it?
It's true. At this point, it is.
But so I don't know, how. I don't know. My brother and I.
Well, do you have to both have the app? I guess is my first question. I would assume yes. Mm-hmm. If you send it to somebody who's not using Snapcash, how are they going to retrieve it, right? Yeah. So there's that factor. And if you're gonna, I guess this is the one thing they're kind of going for them is there are already quite a lot of people using Snapchat. So to throw this functionality in, they don't have to worry about that kind of mass adoption issue.
Right.
They've already been mass adopted. Now we're gonna, let you do this as well. So that's, I guess, a good way to approach it from that side of things.
There's a question of user testing for me. When I think about it, it would have to really work well and quickly because if you and I are going to buy something for mom and we're standing in the store, I don't want to have to use my $30 and then you'll repay me the $15 at some point in the future. I want that $15 from you to come now so that I can use your $15 and my $15 to buy at point of purchase.
Right.
So if that's not happening, that you send it to me and it's immediately available for me to spend then I don't see much value for it because then I still have to front you the cash.
I think it just goes
an hour
into
or 5 minutes later, even if it's that, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes.
Sure.
If I have to use my own cash and I don't have it.
But I think it just goes into your bank account, right? When you send it, my assumption is, and I don't know, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you read something I didn't read about it, but that when you send someone the cash, it's either dumped directly into the bank account or it's credited to a credit card.
Right.
So as far as the immediacy of it, yes, it might be credited there right away, but you're still, when you're making an actual purchase at a retail store, I don't think that's the use case for this. Mm-hmm. I think the use case is, you use your MasterCard when you're making a purchase at the store, but I'm using Snapcash to send money to my friend,
right,
who doesn't accept credit cards.
Right.
So that's my understanding, at least as far as that goes. Now, if you're setting up a poker game at your house and you want everybody to put their money in the pot,
right,
maybe you can get them to all throw in their money using Snapcash, and then you can pay out the winner using Snapcash the same way. I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah.
So that might be a use case that would be a little bit different, but still work.
Harder to market, I would imagine, but yeah.
I guess. I guess my worry would be from a security point of view, since they are making it so easy to send cash, what if, my phone is kind of sitting on my table and, my kid or my unscrupulous friend thinks I could use an extra $20. They load up my Snapchat, they send it to themselves, turn off the phone, and put it back.
You don't know what's happened.
Like there's no, I don't think there's any code that you're punching in to send the money or
it seemed kind of weird
because
like
fingerprint scan or something.
If I'm texting my wife to say I'm looking at these snow boots, they're $47. Boink! You just sent your wife $47. No, well, send me back the money so I can buy the boots. Or,
I think the only thing you have to there's a specific format. So I think it has to start with $, amount, send, right? But heaven forbid if you accidentally add a third digit or something.
How much did you spend at dinner last night? $80.
Yeah. Whoop. But if you hit the 8 and then the 0 and your finger twitches and it's 800 and you don't realize it before you hit send, you could find yourself in trouble, right? So, it's things like that I think that's why a lot of online banking kind of interfaces have so many layers of security to get in, confirm your transaction when you're doing it, make sure this is the amount you want to send. The easier we make it to send money, the more likely there is to be major issues with mistakes,
and
with typos.
They've got to have gone through that, right? As we sit here in 5 minutes, brainstorm issues. You would hope they have a team that have sort of said, okay, what are the issues that we're going to have to get ahead of on this one?
I hope so because I love the convenience factor, but it scares me.
I don't think it's for us though. I mean, the average age of a Snapchat user is 18, and they're millennial. They're more trusting than we are. So it is a concern. It is a concern, but yet it might not be for them,
sure.
The people using it.
But you're also, I think, much more likely to have a 16 or 15 or 17-year-old, wrestle their friend's phone out of their hand and send them $20 to themselves, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe these are things that they're going to have to deal with as the situations arise. But
John, if you hold down his legs, I'll grab his phone.
I don't use it. I have no cash. Don't worry. All right, guys. Well, listen, enough about that. We'll see how Snapcash turns out later. But for now, we should talk a little bit more to John about Wriber. Wriber. It sounds like writer.
Yep.
But you're throwing a B in there, and it's not a silent B. What's Wriber all about, John?
So we're building software that helps companies create marketing and sales content more effectively, such as blogs, white papers, and case studies. And the way it works is as you type your content out, it provides you with intelligent suggestions that help enhance and expand your content as you write, all based on whatever you're writing.
Interesting.
So,
like IntelliSense for Visual Studios?
Sort of like autocomplete on crack.
Okay.
In some way.
Autocomplete, but related to the content, related to your spelling.
Yeah, related to content and ideas. So the idea is that our clients or people, our testers right now are struggling to keep up with the demand for fresh content.
Right.
And there's sort of a company now is almost like a media company. Their marketing department is, at least, and so they always have to keep pushing out content. And sometimes there's only one person, and it gets really tough, and they're repurposing, and there's no scalable way to create content.
Right.
So we've got a platform that helps writers write up to 50% faster, have their content be more interesting and engaging for their audiences, all while staying on brand.
Wow. Okay, so walk me through a use case then. Let's say I'm a marketer. I have a product I'm trying to get out there. Let's say I'm making pick a gadget. Let's say I'm making a better set of headphones, which I think are the best headphones in the world, and I'm writing copy about it. What would be popping up as I'm using the Wriber interface?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess it would depend on which copy you were writing on. But if you were writing, let's say you had a blog, for instance, and you wanted to demonstrate that you were the thought leader in headphone gear or audio or something, well, you would I guess it all depends on whatever you're writing about. But if you were writing about the headphone directly, it would ask you, well, what are the different features of it? How big is it? What is sort of things like that to prompt your thinking.
So Wriber is telling you you might want to talk about this.
Yeah, it's showing you how to.
Okay.
It's sort of if you're writing about this podcast, for instance, it would ask you questions such as, "What did you talk about? How do you know Darren?" These types of questions, and then we talked about the gloss or Glose.
Right.
And then how does gloss help people share content,
sure,
something like that, or share their work, and it kind of goes like that. It's a very intelligent suggestion engine.
So it's a thought provoker more than a IntelliSense, like I was thinking at the beginning, where it says you might want to put a colon here, or the word you're looking for could be super, could be awesome, it's not a thesaurus thing, or it's more of a thought content provoker and
It sounds
high level.
It sounds to me like if you were taking a marketing class or a writing class, the kind of things that your prof might be writing in the margins of your paper, like you might want to explain this one a little bit more, or this idea is a little vague. Could you give some specific examples? These kind of notes that when you're doing your revising, you can go and fill in. Is that
we do that as well? We do that as well. I look at that as something. So we have, I guess, sort of two sections. One is when you're drafting and trying to get the knowledge dump out there, I guess you could say.
Sure.
And you'll find that sometimes, depending who's writing it, they may not be a professional writer, or they might be a subject matter expert, but not have a writing background. So getting their words out is really tough.
Sure.
So our suggestions almost, if this makes sense, it almost like it gets the content out of their heads onto the paper.
Right.
And then we have others. We have another.
That's really, if I can stop you right there, that's really interesting, because one of the things that I've done recently as a student, and I've found that is really powerful for me, is in my team, I've got one guy that he and I work together, and that's exactly what we do. I talk and he types. And we would have these awesome meetings and finish, and we'd have nothing. Nothing written down.
Right.
Maybe we'd have a whiteboard with some very vague ideas on it. But now that we've realized that we have to capture all that when we're doing it, he's madly typing down what we're talking about, and that's so much more powerful for us. So, and that's exactly what we're doing. I have great ideas, but I have trouble starting, and if somebody can just take that for me, so I don't have to write or type, then that takes this huge barrier away from me, and we can move forward with ideas and products and projects and all kinds of stuff.
And you know what it makes me think of is when I was in university and writing papers, and you have your ideas and you have a general outline, but to sit down and actually start writing it is
always
a
cold
like
and stormy night.
Yeah, it's always the biggest hurdle to overcome. And they always say, like, just start writing, like, just vomit everything onto the page, and then you can organize it and pretty it up afterwards, and rearrange everything the way it's supposed to be, nice and orderly. But the most important thing is to actually start the process and get the stuff out there, right? So if you can prompt people to get over that initial hurdle of, I don't even know where to start writing this thing, I mean, that alone is a huge kind of
which triggers
value
procrastination, and really that feeling of starting it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So please, we're both excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my next question is, I think you mentioned already a few kind of groups that might use something like this, but what's kind of the range of potential customers to make use of this product?
So, I mean,
Wriber. I should say the name of it, Wriber. Yes.
We're starting with like local SMEs and agencies.
Okay.
So you've got, I guess, companies that may have one or two people only in their marketing and communications, and they've got to write a blog every week or write their case studies, and they're limited in resources.
Right.
Then you've got agencies that often you'll find that if a company is doing inbound marketing, they're either doing it themselves or they're outsourcing it to an agency.
Right.
And so agencies they're not subject matter experts either, so they have to push out all this content as well, and the common thing here is all of this content, it's being used as a lead generation tool. It's got to be interesting. It has to be engaging. It has to be targeted. And so if companies are struggling to do that, I mean, it's not a scalable way to do it right now.
Right.
It's very difficult. So with our platform, people are able to do it a lot faster. The content is better, and you can repurpose it for multiple audiences very quickly.
And how do I make use of it? Is it a web app that I'm navigating to on my browser, or is this something that is a plugin for Microsoft Word, or how do I connect to that functionality?
Yeah, it's a web app. If you go to Wriber.com, you can sign up for our beta. We're private alpha testing right now, but if you want to sign up for the beta, happy to bring anyone on board and have a look at it.
So am I typing my content on the site then, and then I can export it to whatever finished version that I want to on my own computer afterwards?
You can export it to Word, PDF, or WordPress XML.
Okay, excellent. And how far along are you now in the development of this product? When did you start working on it?
I incorporated the company in May of 2012, so I guess 2.5 years.
Wow.
So it's been a while. I wasn't full time on it though until just over 1.5 years ago is when I went full time on it.
Sure.
It's coming along. It's a very difficult product to make.
Yeah.
Is probably, I don't know if that came across yet.
Well, it sounds very broad. Like it sounds like you have to be able to address a lot of potential situations.
Yeah.
Right?
It's almost like creating artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it is.
about, yeah.
It is. We're augmenting the creative process. So that's
I want that on a business card. Stephen Campbell, augmenting
the creative
augmenting
process.
anything, actually.
Yeah, sure.
yeah. So we've got more than 30 companies that are private alpha testing right now.
Wow.
It seems to be going well.
30?
3-0.
Wow.
We've raised over $150,000.
That's nice too.
It's
keep food on the table.
keep food on the table. I can now take a very minimal salary.
Yeah,
Can
there you go.
survive.
You can buy yourself some more eggs.
And
We didn't cover that on the actual podcast.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Yeah, sorry. We were talking earlier about how he has a lot of eggs
We have a tradition.
that are expiring soon.
We have a tradition when we do our sound testing on the podcast that we ask each guest what they have for breakfast.
Yes.
So maybe we'll
thus
give you
the
guys
eggs came up. We're gonna have a special all breakfast episode.
All
with
breakfast
clips from the sound check at some point in the future. I'm sorry to interrupt, John. Your train of thought there. But
No
anyway,
worries.
So you've been working on it for a little while, full time for the last bit, and your team it's mostly you and some co-op students that are here and there. Yeah.
It's myself right now. We have 2
Yep.
co-op students starting in January to
Okay.
help me along. We're hoping. I always say we,
Yes.
but because I never want to be like it's my
the
company,
royal we, yeah,
you know.
sure.
But we're looking to hopefully get into beta early in the new year. After
Okay.
just, it's a lot of iteration back and forth, just making sure that we've got the user experience down, that the quality of suggestions is there, it's useful, it's not annoying or anything like that.
Sure.
It's going great.
It sounds like something that would be a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm thinking is I'd like to just get on there and start typing some stuff and see what happens, right? Yeah. But
How's the feedback coming from the 30 companies that are using it? Are they giving that to you in email? Are they sitting down having meetings with them? Or how are you gathering that? And how do you find that they're offering up stuff to you? Are they fairly quiet? Are you getting a ton of feedback from them? Or how's that process?
Well, we don't want to pass. Usually what's happened so far is we've given it out and we track how people are using it. If they're using it, how often are they using it? And when people were on it, I'm a fan of giving out a product if you're very early, so you get all that feedback. And when we gave it out, just not all the suggestions were there. That makes sense. They weren't making sense or they weren't relevant. Right. And that was the biggest thing that came back. And there were some other usability things that came back as well. And it was more of, okay, it's not really working. We love it. It's just it needs to work.
Yeah.
And so, we were making the iterations and now we're going to give it back to them. Should be by the end of the year, I would think. And if we get the green light, then we'll move towards a beta.
Cool. Right. Sounds cool. Now, what was your inspiration for wanting to build something like this? Where's the genesis of Wriber?
The genesis of Wriber, I was writing a report for school, and it just was not happening for me. Like it sucked. Getting started it was just not going for me, and I was frustrated. I was angry, and I was like, I wish this thing would just write itself.
Hey, wait! I can make an app for that.
Wait a second. Maybe what if it kind of could?
Yeah.
And that's where the initial spark came from.
Right.
And then I realized that when I've worked in marketing roles before, having to create content, I'm like, actually, this would be useful in this area quite a bit,
right?
Because people are investing money into this.
Yeah, sure.
And that's where it evolved to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And has it been mostly written by yourself? I guess if it's mostly you on the team.
Yeah.
Right?
It's myself, and I've hired co-ops before.
Sure.
So with their help, we've progressed the product. The fact when I started this, there wasn't a lot of actual support from experts. It was more of, you're going to boil the ocean, you're crazy for developing this.
Right.
And now we're almost there, and we're farther than what anybody thought was possible. It's taken a bit of time.
Sure.
May 2012 is when I incorporated, but
sure.
It's coming together. Just persistence and grit is really the factor there, I think.
The key to make it happen. Absolutely. And so your own skill set is, I guess you must have a lot on the technical side to be able to build something like this. You're doing like back end, front end, the
Full
whole
stack.
like range. Yeah. Can I get a little technical and just ask you like what you're using in your stack?
Do you have any Ruby?
No, we don't use we use Django actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Django it would be like because Python has a great machine learning has great machine learning libraries to it.
Right.
So I've found that in Python was the language that I was most familiar with.
Right.
I don't know if I would have, Django isn't necessarily the best framework for doing an app like this, but
Sure.
but the rest of it is everything's written in Python.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And then what about your front end stuff? It's
Front end, HTML,
CSS.
CSS, jQuery, JavaScript,
right.
standard stuff.
All the standard stuff.
Standard
Okay.
stuff.
Nice. And yeah, I guess that covers most of my questions.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Nicely done. You're wearing blue today, too.
A little bit of blue. Interesting. Okay, and so you say you're hoping to have the beta in the new year.
Yep.
And when can we, if it's possible to make a guess at it, when can we see like a full-blown consumer version that people can just jump on board with?
Oh, boy. I would say it's probably 6 months after the beta.
Okay.
So hopefully, if everything goes on time,
Within
on
the
schedule,
next year-ish?
probably mid next year.
Okay.
Mid to late next year would be what I would guess for that.
Excellent.
Have you done any branding? How'd you come up with Wriber? Do you have a logo? Or are you
Yeah,
going
what
with
does
blue-
Wriber mean? I should have
blue
asked that
color?
at the beginning, actually.
It was a combination of write and scribe, and kind of wanted a verb, kind of like Twitter.
Right.
So that's how it came. So Wriber.
Yeah.
And just made up a word, and it was available, and it seems to have stuck, and it kind of sounds like writer. So
Yeah.
I mean, my vision, my
That-
grand 10-year vision isn't to be the content marketing. It's to change the way people write.
Sure.
Meaning that, because every time I present this, there's always be a lawyer that would come up to me. I could use this for my patents, or I could use this for this. And
Yeah.
just as a startup, you have minimal resources. You got to pick one first.
Right.
But those
Yeah.
adjacent markets.
Low-hanging fruit.
There's the vision, though.
Sure, there's no
Yeah.
reason why you can't have the legal version
Yeah.
and the marketing version and the graduate paper writing version.
Martha Stewart
Something, right?
version.
Student version, yeah.
Pinterest version.
Martha Stewart version. Oh yes, there you go. Yeah,
You get
sure.
so many Pinterest projects. Where are you going to start them all today? Or whatever, there's the opportunities are endless there for
That's
sure.
true. I was going to say when you said, what was that line? You said a line that I thought would make the perfect tagline. Oh,
There's no better way to overpower a trickle of doubt.
I was going to say it sounds like writer. Wriber. Quote, it sounds like writer.
It's a great tagline, but it's not. It's better.
Yeah, there you go. Interesting. Well, I think it sounds very cool. Like I said, I would love to fool around with that at some point. Maybe I'll see if I can sign up for the beta just so I can explore what it's like, and we can talk about it a little more on the podcast once it's out there.
Yeah,
would be awesome. But where can we find Wriber if there's anybody out there who wants to kind of investigate a little bit more? I guess you have a website. Yep. That's Wriber.
Wriber.com.
Right. Yeah.
Wriber.com. We have Facebook.com/Wriber, or our Twitter handles Wriber Inc.
Okay.
Or if you need to contact me, John@Wriber.com.
There we go. We got it all, and we'll put links to all of that, live links in the post for the podcast, so people can see it. That's great. Well, let's wrap things up here, guys. We want to say thank you first of all to John. I'm going to try the last name again, John Zupancic.
Yes.
yep.
There we go.
Nailed it.
Thanks, John, for coming on the podcast and letting us know about Wriber. Very interesting product.
Thank
Very
you.
excited about it. Thank you to the Velocity Garage once again for hosting us in the Strong Bad Room. I'm going to have to go back to the Homestar Runners website at some point and see what's going on there. I know occasionally they throw up new content, but
I was there a month ago, and I didn't see anything new since you and I had looked at it.
no, okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Sometimes I just miss Homestar.
You miss the old days, eh?
Do you by the way, do you remember
Yes,
Homestar
I
from
do.
back in the day?
Yeah. I remember Strong Bad. I remember.
Strong Bad with the emails, yes. All right, enough about that. We got finished with the thank yous. Thank you to our listeners, you guys, for listening to another episode of TSP Weekly. Please send us your comments, your questions, your criticisms, your feedback. Our email address is feedback@tspweekly.com, or you can drop a comment on our website, which is tspweekly.com.
I dare you. I double dog dare you.
We very much would like to hear some feedback because most of what we hear comes through Twitter, but even that is not too much. So it would be great to kind of find out if people are enjoying what they're hearing here, or if you think we should totally can this thing, replace the host with Barry White type voices.
More Muppets.
Instead. Yeah, maybe I need to get sick more often. I don't know. But we welcome your feedback and your interaction. So anyway, from myself, Darren Conley, and my co-host, Stephen Campbell, and our guest, John Zupancic.
No.
John Zupancic. Thank you for joining us on another episode of TSP Weekly, and we'll see you all next week.
Stay warm out there.